Speaking. Thus, traveling, I felt tired both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry, so I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. Purport. A traveling mendicant can meet the needs of the body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature without being a beggar at the doors of the householders. The mendicant therefore does not go to the house of a householder to beg, but to enlighten him spiritually. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandehang Shri Guru Shiyataf Parakamalam Shri Guru Navaishtavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shivashakam Vitam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Well, Srila Prabhupada's purport is parallels, or seems to be based on, words spoken by who? Shukadeva Goswami? Chirani King Patina, that verse. Where does that come? I don't know. I can't find it now. Kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadur madandhan. Are there no torn clothes lying on the street? The caves of the mountain refuse shelter to the mendicants, and so on. And therefore, why should... For what? It's a rhetorical question. For what purpose? Why should a learned person flatter those who are mad and blinded by wealth? Narad Muni was living according to this principle. Really just taking whatever was available and depending on the Lord. Going through the forests, feeling very tired from much traveling, and then come across some nice river, taking bath, drinking the water. Sounds idyllic, but it's actually a lot of austerity to go alone, young boy, through the forests. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went through the forest and was quite happy to do so. He was accompanied by his associate Balabhadra Bhattacharya, going through the forest of Jharkhand. And he would also take bath in the waterfalls, it's described there. And he was going through the winter, so in the winter season, so they would light a fire and he would warm himself with the Kashtam apar, it said, unlimited amount of, there's so much wood, there's no shortage of wood. So in this way he was very happy to go through the forest, although we can hardly imagine, people do for pleasure, but in the modern age they go out in the mountains here. There's not much forest, not immediately around here. But people go for pleasure, but first of all they get their heavy boots, their trekking gear, and their map and their compass and all these different things, and they bring their supplies of food and water. But traditionally the mendicants will just go, no shoes, no kamandalu, they'll carry a little water pot, that's all, this much water they'll carry. And for food, well, whatever the forest provides. But those who know, they can take fruits and leaves and roots, they know what to take. And it's also described how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would stop at different villages. From time to time they would come across different villages that would be more towards the edge of the jungle, not in the heart of the jungle. Or if the villages in the heart of the jungle, that would be inhabited by the Bhil, or they're still there, the hunter or very aboriginal kind of people. So it's said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would also get them to chant Hare Krishna. So it's actually a very austere proposal in which one has to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, when he was going along the path that's described, he would chant this: Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Rakshamam, Krishna, 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 Pahimam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava. No, before that, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam, which is praying to Krishna to protect me and maintain me. So the devotee wants to be protected and maintained in devotional service. The sannyasi is going out into the world, doesn't know who he'll meet so many different kinds of people, so he requests Krishna to protect and maintain him in devotional service. And even on the bodily level, he knows that only Krishna is maintaining me and supporting me. These are two of the principles of Sharanagati, or full surrender to Krishna. Rakshishyatiti Vishvaso Goptritve Varanam Tata. The faith that Krishna will protect me and Krishna will maintain me. And especially this sannyasi, the traditional sannyasi, goes out like this. He has to live according to this principle. He has to live that Krishna will look after me. So that life is particularly conducive for one of surrender. Prabhupada sent his disciples out to preach on this basis. One devotee told me he'd joined some temple, and after being 2 weeks in the temple, they got in a car with 4 others and went off to some city where devotees had never been before. These were the very early days of the movement, and go and start a center. No contacts, no friends, no money. That also, similarly, when Prabhupada was traveling by train from Amritsar to Bombay on the Paschim Express. So just as they were approaching Delhi, some men approached them and said, it'd be good if you had a center in Delhi. So Prabhupada taught, anyone want to get down instead of going on with us to Bombay, get down in Delhi and start a center. So I think it was Tejas who did. And he certainly came later. But Tejas Prabhu was describing to me how the place to stay, he had a place to stay in a barber shop at night, because during the day it was being used as a shop. So that was his accommodation. And he would stay there at night, and that was the accommodation offered him. And during the day he'd go out and meet people and preach. He started off with maybe one contact. He didn't know the language. In those days, much less people in Delhi spoke English. He didn't know Hindi, although he learned it pretty quick. You can imagine in those circumstances. He had no where any food was going to come from. He didn't know, and he lived like that for several months with no association, nothing. So, like that, with that spirit, devotees spread the movement all over the world. They went. Prabhupada sent some, go to Japan. They went to Japan. Don't know a word of the language. Don't even the philosophy, the very basic understanding. And they just go they just go and chant in the streets, and with faith in, practically their faith was in Prabhupada, that Prabhupada sent us and Krishna will look after us. And they went on like this, and in this way the movement was spread. In the early days, just with faith that Krishna will look after us, Krishna will protect us. Let us try to do something for Krishna And there were a lot of struggles in the early days. And the struggle made devotees strong and made them see Krishna. That there's a very wonderful recording, visual recording of Shyamasundar Prabhu, the original, speaking his memories of Krishna consciousness in the early days in San Francisco with Prabhupada. It's very wonderful because just half the time he's just fighting back his tears and not always successfully. He's speaking very animatedly. It's only 1 hour, I'm sure there must have been more. He's saying that we saw Krishna all the time. Just like, for instance, we'd have no money, and then we'd just be walking down the street early in the morning, and we'd see all these we saw these dollar bills, $100 bills, just flying around in the breeze, and we'd catch them and take them. And with this we saw this was Krishna. Krishna came to us because we were trying and we had nothing, and just Krishna came to us. So that's struggle, and it is a struggle. I mean, I've experienced myself, particularly in Bangladesh and Thailand, especially in those places, struggle under not well in difficult circumstances, but gradually things develop, and when you look back, you're pleased that you had the opportunity to do that. Not everyone has that opportunity to do so. You could just could have left in that situation and gone somewhere else where there are many devotees and everything's all set up, and you just do your service and prasad is provided, and it's relatively comfortable. Of course, there's always some austerity in devotional service, but to be in circumstances where you don't know what's going to happen, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen ever, anything worthwhile, but just struggling on with the idea that, well, anyway, Krishna's put us here for some reason, and it's our duty to try, and that actually helps to make devotees very strong, and you definitely get the blessings of Krishna by struggling in such circumstances. So I encourage you to go on with the struggle. It will be difficult. It will be difficult, no doubt. But by doing so, you get the mercy of the acharyas and Krishna, that struggle to do so. It may not look very significant what you're doing, but and in terms of actual preaching results, it might not be. But that's how things develop eventually. Just like I said, they went to Japan and nothing ever really happened much there. Even today, they have made a few Japanese devotees, but it's a long, slow, hard struggle. But something has happened. Many books have been distributed. Some Japanese devotees were made, and now at least there's some Indian devotees there who are taking interest in Krishna consciousness. So, but you never know. You never know when things. It may be for many years struggle, and then things just flourish. And just like Prabhupada, he was struggling for many years actually in India, trying to get some preaching movement going. And he actually did get some preaching movement going, a league of devotees, but then it just kind of imploded all of a sudden. And then he was trying, and then he went to America, and still there was no sign of any real progress. A few people were coming around, but no one was taking it very seriously. And every month Prabhupada would go to the Scindia Steam Navigation Company offices and ask about, well, when is the next freighter with passenger accommodation going? He was thinking going back, but then he thought, no, well, maybe I'll just try a little longer. And he went on, and there was no sign of anything really substantial happening, but it did. Due to what? Who can say exactly? Krishna's desire, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's desire, Prabhupada's desire, Prabhupada's patience, his determination, his humility to clean up after hippies and cater to them. That's described the first initiation ceremony. They didn't know what they were doing, and they liked it because there was a feast. That was good. So then they all went home, and Prabhupada, the Guru, was left to clean up. Hey, that was a great feast, Swamiji. Thanks a lot. See you later. And they went off, leaving him to clean up. But gradually, it's described in Lilamrita, Kirtananda was the first who got the idea. He's the first one who asked to help. Can I help? He was the first one to say that after several months. I think he was initiated also. I would say, yeah, I was just waiting for someone to say that. And gradually the others got the idea. Kirtananda picked it up, that we should actually help the Swamiji, not just because they were hippies. They had no sense of any responsibility. So, or service to Guru, they're just, freeloaders. What they, free meals, great, and a little mystical Hare Krishnaism or whatever it is. So, okay, that's fine also. So Kirtananda was the first to take up some responsibility, and it slowly developed. But even as things were developing means more difficulties actually. Prabhupada, he said, when I was alone in Vrindavan, I had no difficulty. Austere in some ways, but there was a room, there was prasadam, and he could have just chanted Hare Krishna, and he was, among the people who knew him, he was respected as elderly gentleman from Bengal who had accepted sannyas, was living in Vrindavan, was scholarly, like that. So he was some respect. Everything was there. There was no need for him to come except the need he felt to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master. And the more he developed ISKCON, the more problems were there, because that's just the nature. The bigger enterprise, you have a big enterprise, and there'll be so many difficulties. But Prabhupada gladly accepted that in service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Many times he said, you GBC, you just manage and I'll retire and write my books. But he never did. Just leave me alone and I'll write my books. And then you manage everything. But he never did. Because maybe he saw that without him, without his personal involvement, the management just wouldn't go so well. So he felt the need to get involved. So he accepted all difficulties for the service of Krishna. And that's actually even more glorious than the sannyasi who goes away from the world and accepts all difficulties. He accepts many austerities. But especially in this age, Kali Yuga, if one accepts difficulties in the service of the Lord, the preaching mission, then that is very much appreciated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, it's not that one should necessarily invite difficulties. Difficulties will come of their own accord. So, if one can live in a peaceful and healthy manner as far as possible, there's no need to accept further austerities, although one may do so also. But our recent acharyas have shown the example of accepting material facilities and using them in the service of the Lord. So not that one has to live in a very physically austere manner. The austerity is already there in the struggle to preach. So that is very pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the acharyas. So I can simply encourage you here who have taken this responsibility for spreading Krishna consciousness in Albuquerque and I suppose the surrounding areas also, to go on. And you may not see much result for some time, but be assured that this endeavor in itself is very pleasing to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you will be blessed by him for this endeavor to preach his message in another town and village of this miserable material world. Hare Krishna. Any question or comment? Yeah.
And the verse itself says, or you were quoting at the beginning of the class, why should devotees flatter, wealthy people? When they're so
Why should devotees flatter wealthy people? Yeah.
It was a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
So, here we are, and
well, that was for the sake of maintenance, for bodily maintenance. Why should one go to? Are there no torn clothes lying on the road? Are there no mountain caves to give shelter? Do the trees no longer give fruit? So for the sake of bodily maintenance, why should one flatter those who are blinded and bewildered by wealth? For the sake of preaching, we can approach such persons. We're not against wealth per se. Rather, that is most useful for preaching Krishna consciousness. It's not 100% essential, but it does help. Can be utilized in the service of Krishna. So, to help such persons come out of their blindness and madness by offering something to Krishna, and for utilizing their offering for furthering the Sankirtan movement, we should approach persons to donate for the furtherance of the Krishna consciousness movement. Is that what you're going to say?
No, I was asking, I guess I was asking about that we are kind of like here and we're flattering and, we would have to go. I don't know, it's like, my own experience here, maybe I'm just not shameless enough, is that, the Indians we've approached to help have been very disrespectful. And so that's been, for us, kind of like a discouragement to, continue pursuing that.
Very disrespectful, huh?
Disrespectful, yes.
Then there are new people coming just from India?
No. Not so much.
Really? That's unusual. Anyway, if the Indians don't help, then that's their misfortune.
What do you think? Any attempts to coach
they just don't help, and they're so indifferent. You gotta let brush you off, like always.
And she's Indian. It's kind of like, the kind of people we're dealing with now, nowadays, they're indifferent, or it's kind of like, we're having a program, please come to our program. And he says, oh, I can't come, my son is coming back from college, I can't come. Always some excuse. And,
well, that's their misfortune. We started this movement without the help of Indians in the West, so it can go forward. Later they may take interest.
It's almost like, now that they're here for some time and established, it's like, why do we need you? In the beginning, we were the only thing around that was authentic in doing something. But I noted before, like 10, 15 years ago, at least the Indians I ran into were a little different.
Well, it depends. There are a lot of people of Indian extract who are initiated devotees in America.
But you'll see in most places that where there are a lot of Indians who are interested, it's really, how do you say it? It's almost all Indians, the people who come. It's like they're an Indian temple.
Maybe. Maybe you could say Indian temple, but they're serious devotees. It's not just their Indian social center. It's just that I guess that cultural difference is still there, and therefore birds of a feather flock together kind of thing. Anyway, there may be so many causes for discouragement, but go on.
So, Maharaj, what do you think we could do better here? I mean, you see kind of like our situation, what we're doing, and what could we do?
I haven't noticed any. It hasn't come to my mind anything, any obvious suggestions. I mean, our program is straightforward and simple. We preach, distribute books, do Harinam, invite people to programs. So you can do that. It's the same formula, maybe a little adjustment here and there in different places. So I can go on with that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.